It's wonderful to be back in New Mexico and to have the opportunity to discuss some of the challenges that working women are facing, because I would not be standing before you today as a candidate for President of the United States if it weren't for working women. I'm here because my mom, a single mother who put herself through school and followed her passion to help others and raised my sister and me to believe that in America there are no barriers to success if you're willing to work for it. I'm here because of my grandmother, who helped raise me. She worked during World War II on a bomber assembly line. She was one of the original Rosie the Riveters. And then, even though she never got more than a high school diploma, because Rosie the Riveter didn't get the GI Bill the way my grandfather did, she nevertheless worked her way up, starting as a secretary at a bank, and by the end of her career was one of the first women vice presidents of a bank in her state, and ended up being the financial rock for our family when I was growing up. And of course, I'm here because of my wife, Michelle, who is the rock of the Obama family and who worked her way up from modest roots on the south side of Chicago, and who's juggled jobs and parenting with more skill and grace than anybody that I know, and looks good doing it too. Now, Michelle and I want our two daughters, Malia and Sasha, to grow up in America where they have the freedom and opportunity to live their dreams and raise their own families. But even as these stories speak to the progress that we've made, we know that too many American daughters grow up facing barriers to their dreams, barriers that their male counterparts don't have to deal with, and that have consequences for all American families. For decades, we've had politicians in Washington who talk about family values, but we haven't had policies that value families. Instead, it's harder for working parents to make a living while raising their children. And we know that the system is especially stacked against women, and that's why I believe Washington has to change. Now, Senator John McCain is an honorable man. I respect his service to our country. But when you look at our records and our plans on issues that matter to working women, the choice could not be clearer. It starts with something the Lieutenant Governor just talked about, and that's the issue of equal pay. 62% of working women in America earn half or more than half of their family's income. So it's not like working women are the exception now, they are the rule. And yet, as was already mentioned, women still earn only 70 cents for every dollar earned by a man. In 2008, you'd think that Washington would be united in its determination to fight for equal pay. And that's why I was a proud co-sponsor of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act, which would have reversed last year's Supreme Court decision, which made it more difficult for women to challenge pay discrimination on the job. And in case some of you aren't familiar, this was a situation where a woman had been discriminated against on the job for years. She was doing the same work as her male counterparts, getting paid less. She didn't know about it. When she finally finds out about it, not surprisingly, she immediately says this is unfair, and she files suit. And the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, in a 5-4 decision, says, well, you only have 180 days to file suit when the discrimination starts, and so all that time that they were you were being discriminated against, you can't file suit anymore, which didn't make too much sense. The majority of the Senate didn't think it made too much sense, but Senator John McCain thinks that the Supreme Court got it right. He opposed the Fair Pay Restoration Act. He suggested that the reason women don't have equal pay isn't discrimination on the job, it's because they need more education and training. Now, that was wrong. Lilly Ledbetter's problem was not that she was somehow unqualified or unprepared for higher paying positions. She most certainly was, and by all reports, she was an excellent employee. Her problem was that her employer paid her less than men for doing the exact same work. So John McCain has it wrong. He said the Fair Pay Restoration Act, quote, opens us up to lawsuits for all kinds of problems. But I can't think of any problem that's more important than making sure that women are getting a square deal on the job. It's a matter of equality. It's a matter of fairness. That's why I stood up for equal pay in the Illinois State Senate when I was in the state legislature and helped passed a law giving 130,000 more women protection from paycheck discrimination. That's why I've been fighting to pass legislation in the Senate so that employers don't get away with discriminating against hardworking women like Lilly Ledbetter, and that's why I'll continue to stand up for equal pay as president. Senator McCain won't, and that's a real difference in this election. As the son of a single mom, I also don't accept that an America that makes women choose between their children and their careers. That's one of the biggest burdens that women have to carry. It's not acceptable that women are denied jobs or promotions because they've got children at home. It's not acceptable that 40% of working women don't have a single paid sick day. That's wrong for working parents, it's wrong for America's children, and it's not who we are as a country. So I'll be a president who stands up for the American family by giving all working parents a hand. To help with child care, I'll expand the Child Independent Care Tax Credit so that working families can receive up to a 50% credit for their child care expenses. I'll double the funding for after-school programs that help children learn and give parents, particularly working parents and single moms, some relief. I'll invest $10 billion to guarantee access to quality, affordable early childhood education for every child in America. And with more and more households headed by two working parents or a single working parent, it's time to dramatically expand the Family and Medical Leave Act. Since more Americans are working for small businesses, I'll expand FMLA to cover businesses with as few as 25 employees. This will reach millions of American workers who aren't covered today. We'll also allow workers to take leave to care for elderly parents and to take 24 hours of annual leave to join school activities with their children. And we'll cover employees who are victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. I also want to stand up for paid leave. 78% of the workers who are covered by the Family Medical Leave Act don't use it because they just can't afford it. It's not paid, and that's not fair. You shouldn't be punished just because you get sick or are dealing with a family crisis. And that's why I'll require employers to provide all of their workers 7 days of paid sick days a year. And I'll support a 50-state strategy to adopt a paid leave system and set aside $1.5 billion to fund it. So I have a clear plan to expand paid leave and sick leave. John McCain doesn't, and that's a real difference in this election. Finally, at a time when folks are struggling with the rising price of everything from gas to groceries, I want to provide working women with some immediate relief. While Senator McCain wants to continue the Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans who don't need them and weren't even asking for them, I want to pass a middle-class tax cut of $1,000 for each working family. This will deliver tax relief for over 70 million working women. And we need to help folks at the bottom of the ladder. Almost 60% of Americans who benefited from raising the minimum wage were women. I won't leave any working person behind, and that's why, unlike Senator McCain, I'll index the minimum wage to inflation so that it goes up each year to keep pace with rising costs. We just can't have an economy where folks keep working harder for less. We can't let women in our workforce get paid even less for doing the same work. We can't keep pushing more and more of the burden on the backs of working parents who are struggling to balance job and family, because what binds us together, what makes us one American family, is that we stand up and fight for each other's dreams and for the dreams of all our children. See, I want my daughters to grow up in an America where they have the exact same opportunities as the boys have. Opportunities that are greater than their mother had, or their grandmother, or their great-grandmother. An America where they truly have the same opportunities as sons. And standing here today, I know that we've drawn closer to this America because of extraordinary women. Women like the Lieutenant Governor and your First Lady, the extraordinary woman who I shared a stage with so many times throughout this campaign, Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. In the months and years ahead, I look forward to working with her and to women all across the country to make progress on the issues that matter to American women and to all American families: health care and education, support for working parents, and an insistence on equality. Because I want Sasha and Malia to grow up in an America where both work and family are part of the American dream, and where that dream is available to all. That's why I'm running for President of the United States.